Have you ever been so completely worn out from being invisible that the thought of spending Christmas alone actually sounded like peace? Not lonely, just peaceful. No pretending, no fake smiles, no performing gratitude for leftovers of affection. That was me this year. Exhausted, empty, and finally done pretending. So when my golden child brother sent me a text, not asking, but demanding, that I watch his kids for a week while he and his wife jetted off on a Caribbean cruise, something inside me finally broke loose. I didn't argue, I didn't explain, I didn't overthink. I just typed 2 simple letters that would flip my world upside down. No. Those 2 letters set off a storm I didn't see coming. It tore our family apart. But for the first time in my 30 years of being everyone's afterthought, I finally felt free. If you've ever been the scapegoat of your family while someone else was treated like a hero, you'll understand the story better than you think. My name's Heather, and for as long as I can remember, I was the Wilson family's backup plan. The dependable one, the responsible one, the invisible one, the person they called only when something needed to be done. Never when something good was happening. Let me show you what Christmas looked like growing up in our house. Picture this. A living room that could have been mistaken for Santa's workshop. Wrapping paper everywhere, blinking lights, and a mountain of shiny gifts stacked so high it nearly reached the tree's top star. But all that sparkle and joy was piled on one side of the room. David's side, my brother, the golden boy. He'd tear through his presents like a mini tornado. Ribbons flying, paper ripping, laughter echoing as my parents snapped picture after picture of their perfect son. And then there was me, sitting quietly on the floor, cross-legged, smiling politely beside a modest pile of 3 small gifts. A sweater that didn't fit, a book I never asked for, and maybe a cheap trinket just so I had something to open. I'll never forget Christmas when I was 12. There was nothing for me under the tree. Not one gift. When I finally asked why, Mom sighed like I'd asked something ridiculous. "Oh honey, be grateful you don't have the pressure your brother has," she said. "He has such high expectations to live up to." That word, pressure, was her favorite defense. The new clothes? He has to look nice at school. The new phone? He needs it to stay connected. The money for sports, dates, or movie nights? He's under so much pressure, Heather. But from my seat on the other side of the tree, pressure looked a whole lot like privilege. David was praised for breathing, while I was lectured for wanting attention. When he brought home these, Dad smiled and said, "You'll do better next time, champ." When I brought home straight A's, Mom barely looked up. "That's nice, sweetie. Can you set the table?" That was my childhood, living in the shadows of the golden boy. Over time I became the family's personal multi-tool, babysitter, maid, chauffeur, therapist, you name it. When David wanted to throw a party, I was the one watching his friends. When the party was over, I was the one cleaning up the mess. When his car broke down in the middle of the night, it was me driving across town in my pajamas because, of course, I didn't have plans that mattered. For 3 decades I played my role perfectly. The good daughter, the quiet one, the reliable one who never said no, even when it meant sacrificing my own life, my own time, my own happiness. I told myself that's what family meant, that love was something you earned by being useful, that maybe if I just kept saying yes, one day they'd see me for who I really was. But this Christmas, everything felt different. I sat alone in my 1-bedroom apartment while my family probably laughed around Mom's dinner table without even noticing my empty chair. The radiator groaned in protest at the cold. I lit a small candle. Not for Christmas spirit, just to make the place feel less hollow. That's when my phone buzzed. It was David. No Merry Christmas, no how are you, just, "You're watching Emma and Jake next week while Sarah and I cruise the Caribbean. Flights Tuesday." No question mark, no please, just assumption. That was David in a nutshell, entitled, careless, confident that I'd always been. His twins Emma and Jake were adorable but wild, 7 years old and powered by chaos. A full week with them meant no sleep, no quiet, and definitely no thanks. David and Sarah made good money, but paying me for babysitting had never once crossed their minds. I stared at that message for a long time. Every part of me, the obedient, soft-spoken version of myself, wanted to type, "Sure, no problem." That was what good Heather did. She rearranged her schedule, burned her vacation days, and smiled while doing it. But something inside me had finally gone still. Maybe it was the silence of that apartment. Maybe it was realizing that no one had even thought to invite me to Christmas dinner. Maybe it was finally seeing that David had never, not once, asked how I was doing. Whatever it was, I finally typed the word that changed everything. No. 2 little letters that felt like a lightning strike after a lifetime of clouds. The next morning, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find David and Sarah standing there, looking like they'd stepped out of a travel magazine. Matching luggage, designer sunglasses, smiles polished to perfection. David's confidence filled the hallway like perfume. "Hey sis," he said casually, already rolling his suitcase past me. "Didn't get your text. We're leaving in a few hours." For once my voice didn't tremble. "Actually, David," I said evenly, "I meant it. I'm not watching the kids." It was like watching someone walk straight into a glass door they didn't see coming. His face froze mid-smile. Sarah's jaw dropped. "What do you mean no?" David's voice sharpened like a blade. "We already paid for this trip, Heather. The kids love you. Then find someone else," I said, calm as ever. "Or take them with you. But I'm not available." Sarah whispered something to him about refunds and cancellations, and I caught the word ungrateful. They glared, turned, and stormed off, suitcases rattling angrily against the floor. The sound was final, like a door slamming shut. The next day, I found a note taped to my door in David's handwriting. "You'll regret this, Heather. The family remembers." After 34 years of being their go-to, that note felt less like a threat, and more like proof that I'd finally taken back my life. That night, memories started bubbling up. The college fund Mom and Dad said they couldn't afford because David needed a car. The vacation money I loaned him for his wedding never paid back. The hospital stay he ignored because fantasy football was more important. 3 days later, my phone rang. David again. Music and laughter filled the background, ship noises. They'd found someone else to watch the kids and gone anyway. His voice was slurred. "You ruined everything," he spat. "Sarah's parents had to fly in. Do you know how embarrassing that was? Mom's right. You've always been selfish." That word hit like a punch. Selfish. The same word they used every time I asked for fairness or boundaries. I took a slow breath. "I don't think asking for respect is selfish, David," he scoffed. "You'll regret this when you'll have nobody left. We're all you've got, Heather. Without family, you're nothing." Then he hung up. What came next was the avalanche. Dad called first, disappointed and cold. "Heather, what's gotten into you? David says you refuse to help with the kids. That's not like you." "Maybe that's the problem, Dad," I said quietly. "Maybe I've been too much like a doormat and not enough like a person." "Don't be dramatic," he sighed. "Family helps family." Then Mom called, sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. "How could you hurt your brother like this? He's always looked up to you. You've broken his heart, and mine too. Looked up to me. Right, in what universe?" Even Aunt Carol chimed in, repeating David's story like gospel. It didn't matter what I said. They'd already chosen their version. But for the first time in my life I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I didn't apologize. I just listened. Let their voices fade. And sat in the quiet afterward. Because for the first time in 34 years, I wasn't the family's backup plan anymore. I was finally me. And that's when I realized, sometimes saying no isn't selfish. Sometimes it's the first step toward finally being free. How his selfish sister had abandoned him in his time of need. How I'd become cold and cruel. How worried they all were about my mental state. It was like being buried alive under an avalanche of guilt and manipulation. Every voice from my childhood came back to haunt me, telling me I was wrong. I was bad. I was the problem. But you know what? For the first time in my life, I didn't bend. Christmas Day came and went. No family dinner invitation. No phone calls wishing me well. Just silence from the people who'd claimed to love me. But only when I was useful. I spent the evening in my little apartment. Just me and that flickering candle. The radiator kept making its old building noises.